The feast of the Lord are prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come, as Shaul so succinctly stated the mystery. The feast of the Lord are the mechanism whereby the Almighty has told the end of time from the very beginning, as Isaiah elucidated. The feast of the Lord are the ancient path to which the saints are being returned, as apostolically articulated in the days of the prophets. The feast of the Lord are the key to unlocking the chronological order of events in the gospel records, and they are the absolute prerequisite to understand the gospel of the kingdom that Yeshua and his disciples taught in the year preceding his passion. One of the most profound prophetic shadow pictures in the entirety of the Holy Writ is the reality that Yeshua was our Passover who was sacrificed for us. Yet, if we have never understood the Passover in its minute detail as it was rehearsed for 1,000 years in the temple, we will never understand the significance or the reality of the real gospel message. But we will be pestered by the pedantic pontifications of the come to Jesus mantras droned from the praise and worship star-studded pulpits of America's New Age, seeker-friendly, untucked, shirt-tailed, stubble-faced psychobabblist. If we filter our understanding through the darkened man-made mirror of modern rabbinic Judaism, we will wander in the clueless netherworld, that swamp of good intentions that swallows up travelers just before they reach the blessed shores of the Promised Land. If we gently beat, mix, and stir the Gentile concocted 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus loves you, this I know story with the Babylonian sun worship festivals of the 40 days of weeping for Tammuz, now called Lent, and Good Friday when Dagon, the Assyrian fish god, was worshipped by eating fish on Fridays, and Easter Sunday when Nimrod's dead wife, Semiramis, was reincarnated as Easter, the naked sex goddess who turned a bird into an egg-laying rabbit. Yes, if we mix all this pagan sun worship in with a little imaginative biblical illiteracy, we have a perfect religion for modern-day America. It is a religion in which the most repeated prophecy of Yeshua is treated as if he never said it, or worse yet, that he himself cannot count the 3 days and 3 nights in which he said he would be in the grave. That is the one and only sign that he said would prove that he is the Messiah. Yet the Christian world ignores the one and only sign and has replaced the instructions of Yeshua with the commandments of an asinine organization built on the ignorance of their past professional false prophets. In 1972, I began my heavenly assignment to end biblical ignorance. After 42 years, I must say that it's taken a lot longer than I ever thought it would take. A year ago, I began planning this Passover celebration. I consider Passover to be the pinnacle of the feast of the Lord, these celebrations for the followers of the Messiah, to make the entire gospel record, the entire Torah and the prophets all come together. It was 5 weeks ago I attempted to convince a surgeon to put 4 stents in my heart to get me through Passover in my upcoming Israel tour, and then when my schedule would allow it, that they would give me open heart surgery in May. They refused to accommodate my schedule and said I wouldn't make it till May, so what's plan B? I still had to get ready for Passover, and so 4 weeks ago, the doctor woke me up after surgery, told me he gave me 6 new arteries for my heart that were as big, if not bigger, than the ones I started out with, and said that this is going to last me for the next 15 years. So folks, this is it. This is the final run to the finish line, and I hope that you will make this dash to the sea of fire and glass with me. We have got a job to do, and we want nothing left in the tank when we hit the final mark. There's no taking it with us. You know, this is our opportunity, and if we do not use this opportunity to get the gospel of the kingdom out over the world, when we have the technology, when we have the affluence, when we have the ability to get things done, when our dogs and cats live better than most of the people on the planet, if we squander this opportunity, then there will be no excuse on the sea of fire and glass. I think there will be a lot of weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth for what we should have, would have, and could have done if we would have taken this thing seriously. I have to admit that my energy level is a bit low. I have to admit that my tolerance for idiots is extremely low tonight. I used to have some immunity build up, but obviously there's a new strain out there, and tonight we're going to have to perform an idiotectomy on this special 2-hour Shabbat Night Live!
It's a special edition of Shabbat Night Live from Charlotte, North Carolina, with your host, Michael Rood. Join Michael and his co-host, Scott Laird, as they welcome from Age Vital Compounding Pharmacy, Mike and Jenny Wilkins, David Jesse, Annie Reed, and musical guest, Karen Taylor. Now, here he is, the Messianic Matador, Michael Rood.
Shabbat Shalom, Toro fans. Welcome to Shabbat Night Live broadcast here, right south of the Charlotte International Motor Speedway. Here in Concord, North Carolina, we are filled up here at the auditorium for our Passover weekend. And as one of the feasts of the Lord, one of these prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come, I'm always excited because every year we get to take a different path. We get to see a different angle, and as we keep doing these things, they keep on getting deeper. They keep on getting richer, and our ability to be able to communicate it to other people out there in the world keeps on growing. And we see that the Holy Spirit is working all over the world, waking people up sovereignly, and the people that have been sitting in the same pew for 40 years, all of a sudden, everything that they thought they believed their whole life doesn't make any sense, and a new reality starts opening up, and first they question themselves, have I lost my mind? Am I crazy? And then they find out, no, they're not crazy. That's exactly what Yeshua said, I will send you the Spirit of truth that will lead you into all truth, and people are no longer satisfied with religion. We are tired of religion. We are sick of religion. We want the truth, and it's happening all over the world. So we want to, from here, welcome you from all over the world for our Passover weekend Shabbat Night Live. Give them a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And a warm welcome to Scott Laird. May I say Dr. Scott Laird, I like to keep one handy. He's the naturopath, but in case I need resuscitation or clubbing. Scott's here. Scott, good to be up with you here. It's been a long time.
Yeah, where have you been?
Well, it's been kind of a fun thing that has happened. And first of all, I want to say thank you. It was 4 weeks ago. I guess it was about 5 weeks ago that the announcement was made that I had no choice. I had to have bypass surgery. I really wasn't expecting that. I went in for a heart catheterization. We knew that I had a heart attack right after our European tour. I made it through, went for 9 hours straight. My last teaching, 9 hours straight, and full of fire, went to Costa Rica to relax for a few days with our friends down there, Walter and Florence, and to plan our Israel tour. And so I had a heart attack and a stroke. It affected my vision, and I was just thankful that I could read, even though I can't see everything in front of me. Something affected it, and so we started making our plans to change things. I can still read, but it's difficult, but they said I couldn't fly. We were supposed to go to India in February, where I was going to be the keynote speaker, speaking to 25,000 people each night for 6 nights, and thank heaven that stroke happened and I couldn't fly because I was running at that time about 25% of the oxygen my heart is supposed to get. That's all I was getting. Wait, excuse me, that would be too much. 12%. I was running on 12%. And so, over in India, if you have a heart attack, what they do is harvest all the rest of your organs, sell them out, and then, just bury you in some alley. So it was good that I didn't make it to India, all right? And so when I look back at it, I could see the hand of the Almighty working for the last year at the point where I just couldn't go on. I kept on pushing, and I survived it. I made it through. I got much encouragement. Rood, rise up and walk out of the hospital. Well, I've been doing that for years. And it was time for a little heroic intervention. And so when we put the word out there, it was a little bit frightening at first because, the upshot was I don't have insurance. And so they told me, the hospital staff, 3 of them came in and said, you don't have insurance, not a whole lot we can do for you. And I said, well, how much is it cash? And they looked at each other like, well, that's a lot of money, cash. And so they said, well, at least $150,000. So Eric came in, he said, okay, let me go to work on that. Well, then the next day the doctor came in and said 150, well, that's just for me. That's not for the hospital. It can easily be well over twice that much. And so I start, I'm getting a little nervous because we asked for 150 and now the surgeon is saying, it's going to be twice this much. But what we didn't expect, we asked for 150 and then when it went up to 230,000, it's like, I really don't have to worry. The Almighty is in charge, and thankfully, you folks stood with me and raised the money that is necessary to make this all happen. I am so thankful, and I read every day. I went through and I read all of your prayers, all the encouraging words, and they warned me at the time. It says, there's something that happens when they stop your heart for 4 or 5 hours and work on you that for some reason you get very emotional about things. And afterwards recovering, turn on TV and I would cry when a Subaru commercial came on, and I don't even like Japanese cars. And so it's like, okay, so I realized, okay, this is what they warned you about. It's like Subaru, who cares? But anyway, this really was an emotional roller coaster. And when I read the comments, from, here's a 4-year-old boy that parents are saying every night their 4-year-old boy is praying for me. And it's just, it's like tears your heart out because, if I can get to a 4-year-old boy, then I've done my job. It's like, okay, it doesn't matter what somebody my age, what happens to them, a 4-year-old, that's it. That's it. It doesn't get any higher than that. At that moment when I read that was it. And then here's a 7-year-old who sends in $34.26. And it's like, what can you say? What can you do? A 7-year-old child. And then, here's, I recognize, I see your names. I see, a family that gives $30 and I feel so bad. It's like I want to send the money back to them because I know for them $30 is a lot of money. They are broke. They've been out of work. It's just, it's heartbreaking to see that. It's like, no, you need it worse than I do. And, I see the old friends, and then, then the other side, I see people that, said they've been watching for years and they send in $4. And I think, if I ate at Denny's, I would give the waitress more than $4. And so, that's why I say it's an emotional roller coaster. It's like, you just deal with so many things out there. And then here's anonymous, $8,000. What do? All you can do is just lay there and cry, $8,000. You don't even know who you can thank, except you thank the Almighty and pray for them. That's all you can do. And then, comments like, hey, wake up, people. This is all fake. Look, the heart monitor isn't even blipping behind him. It was, it was some Einstein girl that didn't even know that that's a, IV thing. But, and so I learned to, not read the comment section of the idiots and morons that weigh in. But, somehow the people that are negative, it weighs so much more than all the good people. But, it's like, I'm not going to listen to the idiots anymore. It's just life is way too short to give any credence to complete morons. And we're living in a society where everyone thinks their opinion counts, and there are some people, their opinion just doesn't count. The world is full of atheists, I find out. And, there's not a whole lot they can say that makes any sense to me. Because they're living in a fairy tale world, and I don't want in. I don't even want any of that stuff heading my way anymore. I don't feel like I have to apologize to the world because I'm working for the King of Kings, and we're just, not everyone's opinion is worth listening to. And so, I think we all need to just realize that, his opinion is what counts, and that's what we're going to go for. So, I thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you out there in the entire world. There's no way that I could write enough thank you notes or anything to thank you for standing with me. And I'll tell you, when this first came down, it was a real fight because yeah, I won't go into great detail at this point, but there was just something about having this thing done, and I knew that there's no way out. It was going to take heroic intervention. My sister had it done 20 years ago. My mother's had it done twice. And for those of you who think, that, he must be living a bad life, I have the doctors tell me all the time, I've been a doctor for 30 years. I've never seen anyone with cholesterol as high as yours. Well, they haven't met my mother. The lowest my cholesterol gets is in the mid 500s on up to 800. It's a hereditary thing. Nothing I can do. I eat just about all organic, everything. My cholesterol was 550 when I weighed 140 pounds in the Marine Corps. I was running 5 miles a day, nothing but muscle and bone, and that's just the way it is. In previous generations, you just die. That's all there is to it. But thankfully, the heroic intervention that is available today allows us to live a little bit longer on that. We live in a sick, twisted world, and we need to do our best. That's why I push on biblical health and introduce you to people to help us all live a healthier life. But sometimes it just gets clogged up, and thankfully, I've got some more time, so we're going to make the most of it at this particular junction. So. I saw one of the comments there. It says, "I'm surprised that Rood is not preaching in the hospital." I'm laying in the catheter lab. They're strapping me down, and I said, well, last time they put it in through here, and I stayed awake because I had decisions I had to make. And they said, well, they're going to put it in through your groin. We've got more tools we can use. And I said, well, it's like that makes me want to block you and punch you back. Just stay away. And he said, no, I'm going to give you something to calm you down. And then, so, they're getting me all ready to run these rods up me. And then a guy asked me what I did was, and so I told him about the chronological Gospels. First of all, I told him about the Red Sea crossing. And so this is a doctor getting ready to do this, and then told him about the chronological Gospels. And so he comes up with a very good question, why in one of the Gospels that after that Yeshua then immediately goes up into the Galilee and lives in Nazareth, and another Gospel said they go down into Egypt. And so I said, most people don't even read the scriptures carefully enough to understand that there's a different story that's being told here and to pick up on this. So I explained it all, and he stood there and he said, that is incredible. He says, I want to get that book. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. When we come out of this, I'm going to get your chronological Gospels. So bam, he puts me out, and I wake up, and he said, nothing we can do. You are so clotted up that there's open heart surgery. That's it. You're going nowhere. That's the only option. And so they take me up to the cardiac ward, and within 2 days, a nurse is sitting on my bed, sitting there, and we're talking about ministry. We're talking about all the Red Sea crossing, everything else. For an hour she sits there. The phone keeps ringing. I'll be with him in a minute. Keeps on going on, and then she comes back and prays that we get to do this thing there. Well, this gets spread all throughout the third floor tower, the cardiac tower, and by the end I've given away a half dozen chronological Gospels, 24 Red Sea crossings, and then we go up to ICU and give away more. And then the doctor, the surgeon, says, you know things about the Gospels I've always wanted to know. I really would like to get together with you. And I said, I travel the world to tell this story. To do it at here locally, this will be a pleasure. And so, the opportunity to get to these people, this is the only way it could be done. So they just have to, cut me open, wire me back together, and I get to witness to all these people. So I just wanted to let you know, if you're surprised that I wasn't witnessing in the hospital, no, the job is not done until we don't breathe anymore, okay? The biggest news on the planet is still they found Pharaoh's chariots on the bottom of the Red Sea. We've got it on video. The Bible is true. The world is a fairy tale, and that's what we're getting out there. So that's kind of what we did. Okay, all right. So it has been a very exciting time. Scott, you've been holding down the fort here. Now you're a naturopath.
Yes, sir.
And I got back, and you helped me out with stuff, and Dr. Mike and Jenny, we're working on stuff. I've lost 50 pounds since last August, folks.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. And, it's just,
Well,
day late and a dollar short or something.
I was amazed to hear that when you were down in Florida, before you had the surgery, before you knew anything was going on,
right,
you were walking, how many miles on the beach?
6 miles a day on the beach.
How do you
every
even
day.
do that?
Well, when I got to the place I was going so fast, my heart hurt, my chest hurt, I just back off a little bit. But I was doing 6 miles a day down there, and Mike and Jenny were pumping me up with what I needed to help rebuild. And then, I went to the VA for a stress test, and they kind of broke me. And after that, we knew that, that something is not going to be right until we do something serious here. So, but we've been working out hard because, we got a big job to do. The chronological Gospels is our opportunity to let Yeshua tell the story of the gospel of the kingdom. And that is, I'm excited about doing that.
Absolutely.
And we're both involved in that on a daily basis.
Yeah, when you were laid up, we made sure that we followed through whatever day it was when we did Shabbat Night Live. We went through the chronological Gospels and said, this is the day that Yeshua did this and that. And I think that the thing that people enjoyed most is reading the comments that you've put in here. I mean, the chronology is one thing, but it's the knowledge that you've been able to gather over 40 years and put in here. That's the thing that answers all the questions. That's the nugget. That's the gold nugget.
That's right. And anyone that carefully reads the Gospels will see these apparent contradictions, just like Dr. Bob did in the catheter lab. And so when you've got an answer and you can fire someone up to know, hey, this is the truth, then we've got great things to share with the world. So thanks for staying with me and helping to make this happen. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break. We got to come back. We got some news from around the world, but we want to take a break right now. So join us in this message for our sponsors, and you are our only sponsors out there, not Pfizer's Pharmaceutical. You are the ones. Take it away.
The Chronological Gospels Bible includes every gospel account of the Messiah's life, more than 300 events over the course of exactly 70 weeks, all in chronological order, plus the books of Acts and Revelation also included. The Chronological Gospels enables you to truly understand the meaning of the Messiah's 70-week ministry. Michael Rood has spent over 40 years organizing the Gospels accounts.
It has taken me an entire lifetime to get his words in chronological order and in proper context.
Right now, you can own the Chronological Gospels Bible for just $69. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the Acts, and Revelation, all in chronological order, plus historical and cultural commentary you won't find in any other Bible. For a more in-depth study, consider the Chronological Gospels Essentials Package, containing the Chronological Gospels Bible, a detailed timeline chart of the Messiah's 70-week ministry, plus the introduction to the Chronological Gospels 4-DVD set. Get the Essentials Package now for just $117. If you're a Bible teacher or group study leader, consider the Chronological Gospels Educators Edition. It's the Chronological Gospels Bible in large print on regular size paper, plus convenient section tabs, all in a beautiful 3-ring binder. Yours for just $120. And for those who seek a deeper knowledge and understanding, get the Ultimate Collection, the Chronological Gospels Scholar Package. This package includes the Chronological Gospels Bible, the 4-DVD introduction set, the 70-week timeline chart, plus so much more. You get the entire Scholars Package for just $347, a savings of $97 off the retail price. Call or visit our website today to order your Chronological Gospels Bible or one of these package sets.
What's that? They can hear him now.
Well, Torah fans, I just got off the phone yesterday with Florence down in Costa Rica. She's heading for Israel right now. She tells me that we have 7 seats left on our Israel tour for this year. Whenever that happens, we've got any seats left. It's like, okay, folks, this is it. Here's the deal. Close Monday, this is it. If you want to be on the greatest tour to Israel that you have ever experienced in your life, or will ever experience, this is your opportunity. $4,000, you get your own flight over there, okay? That's what it is. You get your own flight over there because everything else is shut down, all right? Everything that we've got is filled up, and as a Monday night, we're shutting down the hotels. There will be no places left. I mean, Israel is packed out right now, and so this is your opportunity. Our Israel tour, get on the phones. This is $4,000, get your own flight, and you got till close of business Monday to make that happen. And it is going to be on the 19th that we arrive in Israel. I believe it's the 18th. We have Annalil Mora that's here from Costa Rica. Annalil, we'll probably introduce her to you a little later. She is in charge of Latin America, and she is going to meet everyone at JFK for the people that are flying in there. Then they all meet Florence over in Israel, and I will be over there as well. So it is going to be a veritable hoot this year. Hey, our calendars are now available. The calendars for 6015, 2015, which is this month, all the way through Shavuot next year, are now available. Do you have a graphic for us up there? I'm not really going to go into. Here we are. It is Shabbat tomorrow night when the sun sets. As a matter of fact, it's the 14th day of the month of the Aviv now. This is in Yeshua's year. It was Tuesday evening. That was the 14th day of the month. But it is the following day in which the last of the leaven is to be expunged, not eaten, and then the Passover lambs are sacrificed on the 14th in the afternoon, late afternoon, and then when the sun sets, the Passover lambs are eaten. And so this year, you see right here with the calendar right here, we are at sunset on Shabbat and at sunset tomorrow night when the sun goes down. That is when we are going to be doing our Passover Seder here and enjoying that wonderful rehearsal. So we are going to be broadcasting to the entire world for this Passover. I bring this up for two reasons. The calendars, they're here, they're available now, but we shut down the bookstore on Shabbat. So at sundown tonight, we shut the bookstore down. Tomorrow night, on Sunday, what we're going to do is make ministry of materials available for the people that have come here, but our regular bookstore and the internet and the phones, all that, nothing is in operation until Monday. But it is after tomorrow evening that we are going to make ministry materials available for those of you who have traveled to be here. The Passover broadcast is for your participation. That's why we're broadcasting it to the world. And this is not a popcorn spectator event. That's what it is not. If you want to join us for Passover, then you get ready. Get rid of the unleavened bread. And in Europe, this is going to be in the middle of the night. They're going to join us at 3 o'clock in the morning over in Israel. And this is happening all over the world. So make plans now to participate in Passover. This is not for you to just view in on. It cost us tens of thousands of dollars to make this thing happen for all of you around the world. And right now, we must have a camera back there. Take them back just so they can see what it takes to broadcast. We've got Brian back there. Yeah, go ahead and put it up on the screen, put it up out there. Because in order to be able to reach out around the world with this, it takes a lot of high-tech equipment to do so. The lighting and everything that it takes to do television. You know, we don't need this to do a meeting here. You ever notice you come to a convention and they don't have all these fancy lightings and drops and all that business? Well, there are things that you need to do this to make this happen for television, and this is what we're doing. So we've got the Aviv Moon Productions production truck. Yeah, you can see it right there. Oh, we're going to take a little view on the inside here. So this is a little bit of what it takes to make this thing happen. So we have made this available for a donation of any amount. I'd like to stress that. It's a donation of any amount. $1 is not a donation, it's an insult. Okay? It's like if you went to a fine steakhouse and had a meal for $200, $300. I don't know what it is at a good steakhouse anymore, and you left a couple dollars. That is an insult. Okay. If you've got a computer, obviously you can afford more than $1. Think about it. You get out of life what you put into it. And if you want to live it on the cheap, if you want to be a cheapskate and live off somebody else your whole life, that's not what Yeshua said. He said, be a giver. He says, give and it will be given unto you. Others will give unto your bosom. And so that means when you give. Do something that you would want somebody to do that for you. That's what it's all about. And if you do that, then it will come back to you. It'll be multiplied back in your time of need as well. So I don't want to be insulting, but if it is, good. A dollar, except there are some countries that $2, that's what they earn in an entire month in Africa, $2. $1 is a fortune to them. So, it's all according to where we are in this life. So, be a giver. We invite you, but this is not, again, a spectator sport. Be here. Participate in it. Be a part of what we're doing here, because we are doing this for you, and we are going to have a great time this weekend. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, they've been sitting up here for quite some time. I want to introduce you to... Is that thunder and lightning coming in this building? Okay, all right, I guess so. Dr. Mike and Jenny Wilkins, they are compounding pharmacists. They have been helping me a great deal, and in our search for biblical health and living according to the scripture and helping us to live a great life. That is how we got connected. As a matter of fact, we got connected at Yom Teruah this year. Yom Teruah, which I thought was a complete disaster, I'm going to have to tell you. At Yom Teruah, we invited a lot of speakers in. We gave them, nice gifts for their trips and all. At the end of it, a lot of people started to support, gave to their individual ministries, and I walked out of there $40,000 in the hole. And it was like, you're killing me. I mean, I'm trying to do something to help the world and help other ministers and all, and it's like everything, the bottom fell out. And it's like, how can you walk away from this thing having lost all that? And then Mike and Jenny came up at the end and said, I'd like to get together with you. We hear that you want to be on TBN, and Mike and Jenny gave me their story, which I want them to tell you a little bit about it, and said, that's why we're here. We are going to put you on TBN. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to say this to everyone out there that helped donate for my surgery. Mike and Jenny called me up and said, we'll handle the bill for you. But if they did that, it would have jeopardized being on TBN. And because you gave, we are still on TBN. That's it. Because I think they saw the importance of me surviving this thing. And they were willing to do that, but there's just only so much going around. So Mike, Jenny, Mike, first of all, you were a pastor. What happened? I mean, this is a big step that you made. What happened in your life?
Well, like so many people here, I received the gift of faith. I started reading the scriptures, and I was zealous for the Lord, and I just wanted to know the truth. I started searching. I thought maybe if I learned Greek and Hebrew, that would help. I went to seminary and did the hard stuff, and I got my degree. And then over time, I just realized that the red words seemed different than the black words. I'd read the Brit Hadashah, I'd read the New Testament, and I just saw some, at least with all the teachings, the filters I had been given, I saw that things weren't matching up. And I just got very uncomfortable with reading the black words. I'd only read the red. And then over time, I realized the black words were saying what the red words were saying. And so I started searching. I could not find anyone who was talking about this until some good friends of mine, Jack and Carolyn and Virginia and Regina, it was a double witness, people that Jehovah brought into our lives. And then we realized, lo and behold, there was someone talking about this. And we started watching a Rood Awakening. It blew us away.
And in the meantime, you were a pastor, then you stepped away from that.
I did.
Went into the medical, the scientific
Well, I got
field.
frustrated. I got frustrated because as I was teaching people,
A lot
I realized,
of pastors
didn't know what I was
get
talking
frustrated.
about.
Where are the answers? We went to seminary to get the answers. We're not getting them.
Things weren't matching up. And then I went into science and the same thing. Found lots of details, but everything didn't match up. And finally things started. I got to tell you, when I saw the chronological Gospels, I heard glory music. This has been stuff that I've been looking for years. And I just thought, how spectacular, what a gift. Really. So when all this happened, we just decided, here's someone who's already doing this. Let's help him. And why should we try to build another boat? Let's join aside. And we felt like that maybe the reason that Jehovah had us in the ministry and then put us into medicine was because he wanted to be able to provide for this. And so that's why we really felt the burden heavily on our heart. And we thought, the whole world needs to hear this. Why isn't the whole world talking? Why isn't the whole world excited about this?
Yeah.
Really?
Actually, through a dream, too. We had a dream. We prayed about it, and we're like, we need to meet this guy. We need to go and introduce ourselves. Jehovah told us, go, I will introduce you to Michael Rood. Go to New York. So we went to New York.
And it was inconvenient.
Yeah, it was at a very inconvenient time.
Convenient. Yeah.
And so we met you, and we're like, we got to get this message out there. You want to be on TBN? All right, let us help you. This is Jehovah's
And there it is, that part of the testimony, because we thought we ended up upside down, and it wasn't at all. It was so that we would get together. We sowed it, and now you guys are sowing in, and it's multiplying. Now, Jenny, tell us a little bit. Compounding pharmacy. This is the natural alternative to patented pharmakia. What is this? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Compounding pharmacy is the art of making things that are biochemically unique, like every individual. So, for example, we're helping you when we're doing your panels and we're doing your blood work and your saliva and we're testing your urine. We're only putting chemicals in your body that Jehovah created, teaching the body how to heal itself with vitamin replacement therapy, with hormone replacement therapy, teaching your cells to be rejuvenated, teaching your mind to be sharper. So we literally have lab rats. We're in the lab actually making the chemicals as opposed to depending on big pharma, pumping out the garbage, the Band-Aids for boo-boos that are killing everybody and making people worse.
That's right. And where we go all the way back to this is something that we did a little video at the Pharmacia Museum in Heidelberg showing that everything started with the leaves of the trees. And then starting isolating the stuff in the leaves of the trees and then being able to, have a certain amount of it. And then at the end of it is a big tube full of pills that are made, carbon chain constructs made in a laboratory that has nothing to do with the leaves of the trees.
Exactly.
And so the people that are making this patent and stuff have been the ones trying to put the pharmacists that take it from the leaves of the trees and put them out of business.
Exactly. They mass produce and the green pill, the purple pill, the yellow pill.
That's right. And so all these side effects that you get, you can circumvent all that because you're going back to it's organic chemistry is what it comes down to.
What's in your body already. That's the goal. We want to achieve homeostasis in the body with the chemicals that Jehovah has put there. We don't want to add new stuff there that the body doesn't know what to do with.
So, there are things that are lacking in our environment and our food that we just can't get. And, as we were looking at this thing, we've known the minor adrenals have been wrung out for years, but what do you do about it? Just couldn't do anything about it. But, you guys had me doing 6 miles a day on the beach, and there just wasn't anything we could do about, already being clogged up, 87% at that point or
and we
whatever.
helped you. So. It could have been a different story, getting that 50 pounds off of you, getting your arteries to, to where the quality that they were before the surgery.
And that is what Mike and Jenny do. They help people by the thousands around the world, and that's why I have so much energy as I do today. It was 4 weeks ago. Had open heart surgery, and so I'm feeling a lot better already. And thank you for taking a stand.
Absolutely.
And because of them, we are on TBN. Because of you, we're on TBN around the world now. Every Tuesday at 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. But then we go around the world at all sorts of different times on TBN. And so this is something that Paul Crouch offered me years ago. I just couldn't afford it, and thankfully you people are standing with us. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jenny,
Absolutely.
for being a part of
you.
this. Thank you. And now we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment, ladies and gentlemen, after a word for our sponsors.
Our Father in heaven wants to bless your home, your children, and to give you long life. It's an eternal promise from Deuteronomy chapter 6. All he asks in return is for you to love him with all of your heart. During the month of April, when you give to the ministry of A Rood Awakening International, we'll send you a special gift that helps demonstrate your love for him. For your gift of any amount, we'll send you a mezuzah. The mezuzah has been used for centuries as a means to fulfill the words of Deuteronomy 6 verse 9, to write the commandments on the doorpost of your home. Your mezuzah comes with a scroll inscribed with the Almighty's promises. Fasten it to your doorpost as a reminder of His blessings and to love Him with all of your heart. Call today or visit our website to receive your free mezuzah with your gift of any amount to A Rood Awakening International.
We here at A Rood Awakening International wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our ambassadors who are supporting Bring It to the World.
Gracias.
Toda. Dankeschön.
Your support is changing lives.
Dankjewel.
谢谢.
Thank you.
With your support, we've been able to send our materials to those who need it most, free of charge. Thank you to all of our ambassadors who are supporting Bring It to the World.
Welcome back to Shabbat Night Live. Here we are for Passover weekend, coming to you live from Concord, North Carolina, right here, right down the street as we look out our windows at Charlotte International Motor Speedway, Charlotte, North Carolina, which is the home of NASCAR, which a lot of people say, okay, who cares? I don't drink beer. And what does NASCAR have to do with me? Anyway, we are here at the Convention Center, and we have with us, ladies and gentlemen, we have our songstress who has come all the way from California, where she just moved, Karen Taylor, and we have David Jesse, who is joining us from Colorado. Ladies and gentlemen, Karen Taylor, David Jesse, good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Very excited. Both of you are going to be speaking and singing. That's what always excited about having Karen with us. I was supposed to be out with your congregation this last summer. I had to cut that trip short, and I was hoping she would talk to me after that. They worked hard for that big venue out there, and first time in my life I had to bail on something. Just did too much pain to be able to handle it. But you made the move out there, and it's not painful living in Southern California, is it?
Not too terribly, but it can be scary.
So, Karen, tell us a little bit about your background, because people have seen you on television for years. You've been part of big ministries out there, and I want to hear a little bit about your journey. And it's amazing how David's journey kind of goes along with this.
Well, growing up in church and all my life, I think I probably was born on a pew somewhere, I'm not exactly sure, but I've been in church all my life, born in the Baptist denomination, and then from there my quest and my hunger took me to Pentecostalism, Church of God in Christ, and ordained as an evangelist there, and just an amazing journey with that, teaching and preaching and just going full steam ahead, trying to do what I call the ministry. And then from there, it took me from that moment, my hunger and my thirst, because I still wasn't satisfied. I'm kind of like the doctor that was saying the red words, because we grew up saying everything in red is what Jesus said, and the Greek and the black, and it was bumping. We was like, what is he talking about? But, from there I went into non-denomination, and then one day about 13, 14 years ago, I had an epiphany. I had a major wake up, and next thing I knew, I'm studying the Hebrew and understanding I need to go back to the original language where it all began, because I'm mixing something, So that's that's been my amazing journey. So I wrote my first book, A Deeper Look at the Real You, Understanding Your Spiritual Anatomy. It sold about 7,500 copies around the world. It was being read in prisons and just breaking down the spiritual anatomy. And then I moved to Dallas for 20 years, 7 years with Bishop T.D. Jakes, did singing for him on his Grammy-nominated CD, and under his ministry I was blessed to write my second book, which was called The Dwelling Place of Elohim. And so just an amazing journey of just searching. But now I am about as happy as I could be. I think I finally have struck Eureka, is a good word for me, yes, gold. Yes. I finally found, and when I found you, it was magnificent. Your chronological gospel is just wonderful. I just love reading it and love taking
Yeah, we're getting back
nuggets
to the red words again, in context this time.
Yes. Reading it in context, reading it historically, linguistically, culturally, made all the difference in the world, Now I'm understanding things that I never understood. And you feel really crazy, Brother Michael, because you've been preaching on master platforms. Bishop Jakes had 30,000 members that I got a chance to preach to for 3.5 years. It's one of the only elders of 400 ministers to be brought up repeatedly to preach. And then to come off of these platforms, TBN, Daystar, Celebration, to have your own ministry. I've been out of the country 33 times, preaching, singing, screaming, crying, hollering, sweating my clothes off, falling off. You look at me, I pass out. Then I got up and I said, oh my God, I've been saying everything wrong. I'd like to give everybody their money back that blessed me, but
That's a rude awakening.
It's gone. Oh.
Yeah.
That was a rude awakening.
Yeah.
A rude awakening.
Well,
woke me up.
what you said to say about context, this is David's life. What you're doing in context right now, former Vice President of Promise Keepers, what's going on with you? Because you're into a preaching of context now, aren't you, David?
Absolutely. Well, what I have found is that since I've left Promise Keepers, God has called me to be, in many ways, a missionary to the church, to go back and take this message that in our world we like to call the Hebrew roots or the Hebraic roots, and take it back and present it in a manner to those people that are sitting in the pews, that they'll begin to open up to it. And I don't think we need to always use terms like Hebrew roots and Jewish roots to accomplish the goal that God's given us. We can use things like context, because if we can point people back to scriptures and get them to engage in scriptures, and I do that by pointing out what I call, and you were using the same language, Karen, historic, geographic, religious, and cultural context. If people are seeing scripture that way, it comes alive for them, and that's when they start coming into an understanding of what we're experiencing this weekend.
And the doors have opened wide open. You're seeing an acceptance by just not using the wrong buzzwords that people, they immediately, it just misfires something in your brain, but avoiding that, you're finding that people are waking up and they're understanding. Definitely. And they're hungry.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. I was at a traditional Sunday church service this last weekend, and this gentleman that I hadn't seen in 2 or 3 years came up to me, and he gave me this big hug. He said, "I can't believe the bow tie Bible guy is here." That's become my nickname over the past few months. And he came up and he gave me a big hug, and afterwards he came to me and he said that a few months ago he was reading through his daily Bible reading plan that he goes through every year, and he got to the 10 Commandments. And as he was reading through the 10 Commandments, he got to that one about the Sabbath, he said. And he fell under intense conviction because he realized that this is the one commandment that we don't keep. And then he started doing the theological gymnastics, that all of those discussions that go around in your brain where you say, well, the early church changed it to Sunday, and then we don't have to keep the Torah anymore, the law anymore, because Jesus fulfilled it. And he went through all those things in his brain, and as he did that, none of it made sense to him. And so that's when he started
It
going
didn't make
down.
sense to
It
him.
didn't. And so that's the
it.
awakening.
The Spirit is moving.
That's exactly right. The people
Powerful.
in the pews are starting to wake up to this, and that's what's very
Well,
exciting.
we're looking forward to hearing more about this weekend. I wish everyone could be with us for the whole weekend, but thank you for being here, and it's going to be an exciting time. We're going to take a break for just a moment for our sponsors out there, all of you watching in Cyberland. We'll be back.
I sat down beside a man that 1 year ago, he had been in a cult, he had been in the church, and he was searching. And he was on the church channel and saw a rude awakening. And it changed his life, and he's here because we were able to support that and have that available.
I want people to wake up. That's why I'm supporting a rude awakening.
I just give with faith. I give in faith.
Through this ministry, through Michael, we get to be part of ministering to people and changing lives.
But if you're being fed somewhere, you need to support it. And if you're being fed by Michael Rood, you need to support it.
We cannot outgive God.
You're really putting your money in the Ambassador Club to where it can really help maximum number of people.
Call today with your monthly gift of $100 or your one-time gift of $1,200 or more and become a member of the Ambassadors Club. Help us bring it to the world.
Our Father in Heaven wants to bless your home and to give you long life. And this month, when you give to a Rude Awakening International, we'll send you a mezuzah to remind you of these promises. The mezuzah has been used for centuries to fulfill the commandment to write the scriptures on the doorpost of your home. Fasten it to your doorpost as a reminder of His blessings. Call today or visit our website to receive your free mezuzah.
Many of you have had the opportunity to meet Annie Reed on the phone. She is the Director of Ministry Development for A Rude Awakening. She is bilingual at least and so can fill in across international borders. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Annie Reed. Annie. Well, Annie, tell us a little bit about, we see you and Laura boxing on, on the Rood Review and all, but what is it that you do on a daily basis? Because we do keep you girls in different parts of the office in order to keep the drama down. But Director of Ministry Development, what do you do?
Well, I focus on all of our partners. So I focus mainly on making sure that their needs are met and that they're being provided for spiritually and physically, any way that we can.
Yeah, and we have a lot of our ambassadors around the world, and we really look to them to see, okay, where is the support? Where can we go on different networks? Because they want to help get to Canada, and so we got enough people. Okay, we can go on another network and hold this thing in Canada. So you keep in touch with them in feeling this out of how we develop and reach out with the ministry.
That's right, and we always try to make sure that people are aware of the need. I think that's the greatest thing right now is that people need to understand that there's such a great need for us around the world. We have, for instance, we have a gentleman in Ethiopia. I mean, he is just on fire. He gets up at 2 a.m. every night to watch Shabbat Night Live. And I mean, he is just loving the entire message. His entire congregation, that's all they do. They get together to watch Shabbat Night Live.
And what we have going on in Africa, see, we have an office in South Africa, and their job is to, they don't have to take care of America. Their job is to make sure that our materials get out all over Africa. So in Ethiopia, if we've got a congregation that is waking up and they need materials, we get a hold of Reg and Lynette down in South Africa, bam, manufacture, send it all out, they get it out to them, and this stuff goes out free of charge. We give away thousands of dollars of materials every week to people out there, don't we?
That's right, we do. And I do want to try an exercise with our audience, if we may. I'd like for those that are ambassadors to stand up in the audience. Don't be shy, we know who you are.
Okay, we'll give you 3 seconds to stand up. Oh, a lot of ambassadors here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. These are people that have committed at least $100 a month or more to give every month in order for us. See, when they make their commitment to us, then we can make our commitment to our broadcast partners out there. And so they know it's coming in and that's what we do. As we can afford it, bam, we hit the next one. And because you people are standing with us, and some of you have been with us for years and years and years. I know some of you start out $100 a month, then you doubled it a couple years ago, and some are given, some are given thousands a month in order to partner with us to make this happen.
Now, what I'd like to do is ask for anybody who has found us through television, whether the church channel, TBN, Inspiration TV, to stand up. So if you have found a Rood Awakening because of church channel, TBN, any kind of means of television.
Yeah, we've got the Canadian networks and
Hope
Oral
TV.
Roberts University, that one, because somehow you saw on television. Keep standing, Don't sit down yet. Get up. Okay, we gotta log this in. We gotta get this vision to see what's happening on that.
Now,
That's beautiful.
if you found us on YouTube, keep standing.
Okay, got us keep standing up. What's next?
If you found us on YouTube, anything that is television related, we need you to stand up.
Anything to do with television media related, YouTube even fits in that category, because if we wouldn't be on YouTube if we weren't on these broadcast stations. So now it becomes the majority of the people in this room.
That's right. So thanks to our ambassador, you are standing here.
And how many of you, because you're directly related to me? 3 people in the front row. Okay. It doesn't help being related to me. It just doesn't help. Okay.
But that alone just proves to you the impact that you're creating around the world. Just $25 a week, $100 a month, that you're changing all those lives, each person in that audience. So you had a part in it. It's not us that are the evangelists. We're just the means of transportation, but they're the ones that really allow it to happen.
Well, we're here to energize your ministries. That's why all the videos. Just keep on getting out. I do the same thing. I use them myself. I get a lot of Red Sea crossing videos, and I get them out to people. Red Sea crossing cards, get them out there, and just see how many people you can mess their lives up. Right? Because all of you, most of you could say, and have, you said, you really ruined my life. And you said it with a smile on your face because you're glad it's not the way it always was, right? Okay. There are a lot of other people out there like us that want to be awakened. So, realize that not one of you look like you'd ever believe. You're sad looking. No. There's no way you can tell. You can't tell, so just get out there and wake the world up. And we're going to keep on doing it, aren't we?
That's right. We're going to keep going until the very end.
That's right. And so we've got so much going on. I talked about having Aunt Lil up here. I wish we would have her up here to talk about this. You girls speak the same language.
Yes.
And what is happening in the Spanish-speaking world is profound.
It always has been. There's such a hunger there. You talk about a culture that's really rooted in paganism. They started from the Roman Catholic Church, and they keep absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of fear and a lot of confusion. Yeah,
and so we are pushing every transcript, everything I do, translated into Spanish, voiced over. Then we're going into Portuguese. We're going into Russian. And I want to make this announcement out there. I forgot to bring this up. Ladies and gentlemen, we need 3 junior editors, people that can do transcripts, accurate transcripts that can feed our main person over in Israel that then makes sure the corrections are done. It then goes to the different people who translate. I need 3 people, serious people that can do transcripts and to do them on a regular basis. So I'm calling out to the world, not just the people in this room. I'm calling out to the world. I need you 3 people to show up this week. We've got a big job to do, okay? That's transcripts. We send you the teachings, need the transcripts, and then we'll make sure they're right while you're a junior, is because your work will be corrected and sent back to you so you can really understand what I did say instead of what you thought I said. Okay? And that is an art form itself, understanding what I'm really saying instead of, or meant to say sometimes.
We have a good team of volunteers that are helping us.
We do. And we're very thankful for all of our people. Well, Annie, thank you for being with us, and you and Laura are going to be with us in just a minute for a Rood review. Thank you. Thank you, Annie. Beautiful.
And I'm Laura.
And you're here in time for Rood Review.
Live from Passover. We're back. That was awesome.
I know, it couldn't have been that long.
So we've already had a wonderful time at Passover. Annie and I hosted the matzah mixer this afternoon. We had a great time. We took the dough and made the bread and, well, matzah. We'll have it for our Passover meal tomorrow night.
Needless to say, we can all have some matzah tomorrow evening.
But it's possible because
we had a great team of helpers.
We had like 8 or 10 adults that stuck around. They stuck with us, and they did hundreds. So we just want to say thank you so much for helping us.
That's right. They put my tortilla making skills to shame.
Like a boss. Yes. But we had one very special helper, and we want to give a shout out to her. Her name is Jessie, and she's our new friend, and she stayed beside us the entire time and made sure all of the matzah got put in the sealed dishes so that it's nice and fresh for you guys tomorrow night. So wherever you are, Jessie, thank you so much.
And speaking of shout outs, I hope they don't mind. We have a couple that is celebrating their honeymoon with us. So they just got married last week, spent a small portion of their honeymoon away, came for Passover, and then they're returning to their honeymoon after they leave. So
that's romantic.
I know. Oh. Congratulations, Angela and Jamal. We're so happy that you're here with us.
Yes. I think it's going to be Rood Review with Angela and Jamal if we're not careful.
I am okay with that.
We just pray that your marriage is blessed, and we're thankful that you let us be a part of it.
Thank
you. So we've got some announcements.
Yes.
Speaking of new things, the biblical calendar is here. We got them in. If you pre-ordered yours, you can get it here this weekend. And those of you at home watching, if you've pre-ordered your calendar, as soon as we get back and we're back in the office, we'll start shipping those out. And they are gorgeous. You're going to love them.
That's right. And also, as we are on this Passover season, we have Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and we have First Fruits. I mean, it's just boom, boom, boom. And it is wonderful. It's my favorite season of them all. But First Fruits is my absolute favorite. For those of you who aren't aware of what First Fruits is, it's a faith-giving opportunity. It is your offering of faith. See, in biblical times, this was when Israel would go in and pick the very first of their harvest without even reaping the rest. So they have no idea what the season will bring.
Right. Michael was actually talking to the staff the other day about it. That's a great thing about working there. You get these teachings all the time. And he was talking to us, and he said, they would give of this first fruit, and they didn't know what was to come.
That's right.
If there was going to be a famine, if there was going to be something that totally destroyed the rest of the crops for the rest of the season, they didn't know what was going to come. They gave out of that faith. And there was a blessing, a covering then over their harvest. And so we're going to be giving that opportunity. It's coming up for all of us to give of our first fruits. And I just believe there's just going to be a blessing.
I believe it too. And if you're watching us from home, there's an opportunity to continue watching all of these teachings, absolutely. The entire thing for a donation of any amount, right from home.
The bad news is you won't see us again.
Aww.
The good news is you're going to see Michael all weekend long. So join us all weekend long. Go to aroodawakening.tv and you'll see the give to donate. Give to watch. Any donation amount will let you watch the entire weekend from home. So we hope you join us. And
until next time,
Shabbat Shalom to our fans.
Our Father in Heaven wants to bless your home and to give you long life. And this month, when you give to a Rood Awakening International, we'll send you a mezuzah to remind you of these promises. The mezuzah has been used for centuries to fulfill the commandment to write the scriptures on the doorpost of your home. Fasten it to your doorpost as a reminder of His blessings. Call today or visit our website to receive your free mezuzah.
There it is, 14 seconds in the land of Israel, and that's where we'll be a week from now. I'm heading over to Israel. We'll be down in Sderot, where we have put a number of victims of terror who've been maimed in those terrorist attacks down there, where we put them to work. They now have gainful employment for themselves, for their family members, and we continue to work over in the land of Israel to do that, to support those believers. So thanks for standing with us with the Lydia Project. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our musical guest tonight has been heralded as the most musically energetic proponent of Torah truth in post-Christian America. She's been called the Mahalia Jackson of the Messianic movement, the Ella Fitzgerald of the effervescent evangelism, the Torah-toting Tina Turner, the Diana Ross of dynamic discipleship, the Beyonce of Bible-believing Baptists, the Aretha Franklin of the apostolically anointed, the Whitney Houston of holy hallelujah worship. A warm welcome for the unpredictable, unduplicatable Miss Karen Taylor.
Woo! Wow! Wow, somebody shout glory. Somebody shout kabod. Your authority. Let it rain on me. Let it rain through me. Ah, hallelujah. I want your authority to reign, Daddy. Can I sing it now? Now let your glory fill this place. Let your all-consuming fire fill this tabernacle, purify our hearts, surround us in this place. Want you to breathe new life within us, send a refreshing now, saturate our hearts. Breathe
Traditions that we inherited from Babylon through Constantine have us occasionally with a little plastic cup and a little round wafer in a church service having what is called communion. But Yeshua was not having communion with his disciples. It was the last meal before his crucifixion, which happened at the time the Passover lambs were being sacrificed the following morning. Yeshua took this opportunity to explain something that had been embedded in the Israelite culture for then over 1,000 years. Melchizedek brought forth bread and wine to Abraham, and he blessed the Most High, saying, Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, ha'motzi lechem min ha'aretz. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Yeshua said, this represents my body, which will be broken for you. As often as you do it in remembrance of me. And so we break this bread and we do it in remembrance of him. Likewise, Yeshua took the cup and he blessed the Most High with that blessing that Melchizedek blessed the Most High. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, borei pari hagafen. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, the King of the universe, the creator of the fruit of the vine. Yeshua said, this represents my shed blood, which will be poured out for the remission of sin. I will not drink another drop of the fruit of the vine. You take my cup and divide it among yourselves, because I won't drink it until I drink it again with you in my Father's kingdom. The marriage supper of the Lamb, Yeshua will lift this cup and he will say, L'chaim, to life everlasting. And until then, we remember what he's done and remember that marriage supper of the Lamb. Get ready. This is the Feast of the Lord, prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come, Yom HaBikurim. If you'll take your Bibles and turn to Exodus 23, and verse 15, we're going to read and gather where we are in the Creator's calendar, in his Moedim, in these Kadosh Mikra, these holy rehearsals, because the Creator's calendar is a cyclic calendar. It rolls around the year, and we are told 3 times a year that we are to go up to Jerusalem, and there we are to celebrate the Feast of Yehovah. These are not Jewish feasts. These are the Feast of Yehovah. And as we read in the Brit Hadashah, in the renewed covenant writings, is that the living oracles were committed to the Jews. They're the ones that kept them. The traditions that were embedded in Judaism were the only things that even help us to remember what used to be taking place during the temple period. If it were up to the Baptist, well, when I grew up, it was up to the Baptists, and we were absolutely clueless. We had no idea, for the most part, what the gospel record was all about, because we were so far removed from the feast of the Lord and didn't even understand what the New Testament was speaking of when Paul said that these were shadow pictures of good things to come, not even realizing that they are the very mechanism whereby the Almighty is told the end of time from the very beginning. If we do not understand the spring feast of the Lord, we'll never understand that Yeshua is literally fulfilling the spring feast of the Lord in the gospel record. We do not understand the fall feast of the Lord because it's been completely removed from our culture and from our entire education system in the Bible. We'll never understand that the book of the Revelation is the Messiah fulfilling the fall feast of the Lord. And so the book of the Revelation remains an indecipherable time warp continuum to the Western Gentile Christian mind, because we've got nothing to hang it on except for fairy tales and basically Babylonian sun god worship that we inherited through Constantine. Well, we are going to look at these feasts of the Lord and understand that, as I've said for years, we cannot understand the Gospels unless we first understand the Torah and the prophets. That's the foundation. For the last several years, I've been teaching a truth. It is like Euclidean geometry and non-Euclidean geometry. Both of them are valid, and the second portion that I've been teaching is you cannot understand the Torah and the prophets until you understand the prophet who clarified, who lived these things and showed us how the Torah is to be lived. We cannot understand the Torah and the prophets, and that's why it is such a vain and misleading things for people to think that they're going to go into Judaism and they're going to understand the Torah. The Jews, for the most part, by and large, don't understand the Torah any more than Christians understand the Gospels. You know, they show up a few times a year and show up in for Easter, Christmas, and Passover, the Day of Atonement, and what else? Maybe a little bit of Sukkot. And for the most part, most people in the Jewish religion have no idea that even the calendar that they're keeping was invented in 359 of the Common Era and has nothing to do with the biblical calendar. It's just religion to them, just like it's just religion to most Christians. They call themselves Christians, but they don't know what it means to follow Yeshua. They have no idea what he teaches. And so to go to a synagogue and expect that you're going to learn the Torah is one of the most greatly wasted period of time that you'll have in your life. If you read it, the Holy Spirit will lead you into all truth. If you get with other believers who are led by the Spirit and not led by their own fairy tales and who really look to understand the Bible in context and live it, that's where you're going to get fed. Where fellow believers can work together, can work these things out, can know each other, and by the Spirit be led into truth. And so when we come to understand the Feast of the Lord and their prophetic significance in our lives today, we need to understand that Yeshua and his fulfillment of these things is the primary thing. That is the primary thing. And when we understand how he lived it, then we can go back and we can watch all this stuff take place. Now, in Exodus chapter 23:15, we read, "Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days as I command thee, in the time appointed in the month, not Abib, but in the month of the Aviv," as it says in the Hebrew text. There is no month called Aviv. Aviv is an ancient Hebrew agricultural term that refers to the maturity of the barley harvest, period. Just like Givol only refers to the maturity of flax. There are different agricultural terms that the King James translators, English translators, try as they might, they were completely clueless as to what these terms really meant. They take the word Aviv, and they take the word Carmel, and turn them both into green ears. And if there's anything that Aviv or Carmel means, it's not green ears. And this is where we get into trouble with King James only mentality people. It's like, come on people, these are translations. They did the best that they could, but you've got to think. You know, Yeshua's words in Matthew 5:17, "Think not," the verse doesn't end there. There's not a period after "think not," all right? This is not a commandment that supersedes all of the commandments, think not, but you'd think so, the way that things are treated. You know, we are to think. We have to go back to the original. One of the keys, ladies and gentlemen, is to understand that the living oracles of God were committed to the Jews. We have words in English, and we make conclusions based on English words which are completely outside of the context of the land, the language, the culture of Israel. The people that have spoken the language for thousands of years look at these words and they don't mean the same as they do in English. But English speakers look at these words and they form entire denominations out of things they don't understand just because a King James translator translated it that way, and every word in the King James was given right directly from heaven. Well, it wasn't. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm sorry if your faith is based upon every word in your particular English Bible being absolutely God-breathed. but you're in a sorry, sorry state if your faith is in men's translation. Our faith is in the Almighty communicating the truth to us, and that by His Holy Spirit, He leads us into all truth. If it takes 20 years to answer a question, then it's 20 years well spent. If it takes 30 years, and for me, sometimes 40 years, to get an answer on something that I could not figure out, but I had to live in Israel for the last 20 years in order to even begin to get a clue. I had to sit out in the sheepfolds of Tekoa with the Cohen out there, the last living Cohen, priest of Israel, who is a sheep herder in Tekoa, where Amos was a sheep herder, and sit out there in the sheep barn with him day after day as I lived in a cave outside of town for weeks at a time, and then I would come up into the little village of Tekoa and sit there with the Cohen, who understood things about the temple service that have been lost to antiquity. He's the one that the Temple Treasures Institute in Richmond would go down and see him to dig into things, because it's his family that kept these understandings and these treasures. And so this is where I spent so many months of my life out at Tekoa doing this. And you can't do it by sitting in America and taking your King James Bible, putting it under a microscope on a stainless steel table and dialing it into Greek words. It can't be done. You have to go back to the land, the language, and the culture, and that is where things begin to open up. So we can't think just because we have some English words that we understand what we're talking about. So it is in the month of the Aviv, it's referring to barley, because as we'll see tomorrow night during our Passover Seder, that when the Almighty rained fire and hail down from heaven, it destroyed the barley because the barley was Aviv. And that it says in the 23rd verse, 23rd chapter, verse 15, keep the feast of unleavened bread 7 days as I commanded you in the time appointed. In the appointed time in the month of the Aviv. The Aviv what? The Aviv barley. Because in the month of the Aviv barley, you came out of Egypt. And none is to appear before me empty when you come up to the feast. And so to understand the beginning of the year, we have to understand that the barley must be Aviv. And why is this important? We're going to see that during the month when the barley is Aviv, we are to present barley in the tabernacle and later in the temple, and we are not to eat of the new produce of the land of that year's barley crop until after we make this presentation of the barley. Up until that presentation is made, we can eat of the old barley from the previous year, but we don't eat any of the new barley. This is a very important principle because barley is the poor man's grain. It's the first to ripen in the spring. And if the previous year has been a little bit of a dearth and we're running out of grain, we are really looking for that barley to go Aviv, to where when it is then parched, you take barley, it's not fully ripe yet, it's still got some green in it, it's starting to lighten up, and when you thresh it, and when you parch the barley in fire, it removes the moisture, and so that's why it tells us, as we will see, to parch barley corn, and then we grind it, and then we bake it into loaves, and then that is presented in the temple. That is the first fruits of the barley. So we actually eat parched barley. It has to be parched because it's still got moisture in it when it is Aviv. And you always harvest barley when it's in the Aviv stage, not when it's fully ripe. If you wait until it's done today, like with a modern combine, you wait until it's standing, it's completely dried out, and then you take a combine through the field that cuts it. It then winnows it, and it separates the chaff from the wheat, and then dumps the barley into the hopper. All you farmers know this. This is how wheat is done as well. But if you wait until that stage and harvest it by hand, as soon as your sickle hits that shaft, you've reseeded for the next year. That barley immediately, the heads break, and you have reseeded. That's the way it goes. And so this time when the barley is Aviv is very important. And you can't eat of the new barley until it's presented in the temple. This is important because your offering that you give is the very first of the harvest of that year. You have no guarantee that the next week you are not going to have hail, you are not going to have 3 weeks of rain that completely destroys the crop for that year. You have no guarantee that you will have any food for the rest of that spring. You're giving of the very first, and that is your testimony, that is your faith in the Almighty, that He is your provision, not this which is growing out of the ground. That's what the first fruits is all about. It is your statement of faith that the Almighty is your provision. You give of the best, you give of the first, and then you expect that He will back you up and He will be your provision no matter how it has to come. And this is how Israel learned many, many hard lessons through the judges, is that when they didn't do, and they didn't have faith in the Almighty, they didn't present their first fruits, then they had great troubles in the land. When they walked away from the Almighty, then they could have no confidence that He was their supply, and before long they were in bondage again. And that's why we see Gideon, who was winning out the barley. He was winnowing out the barley in hiding because of the enemies in the land. Well, the barley, when the barley is Aviv, this is when the new moon appears, that is the first month of the year. And it tells us in the scripture to guard the month of the Aviv. It's the same word as used to guard the Sabbath. Keep the Sabbath, guard the Sabbath, protect the Sabbath. Protect the month of the Aviv. Because in the month of the Aviv, we came out of Egypt. The month of the Aviv, that's when we have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, there is always going to be a Sabbath, a weekly Sabbath. And at the close of the weekly Sabbath, when we can do work, that is when we harvest the first fruits of the barley and we present it in the temple. Now this year there's been a little bit of a controversy that has come up concerning the day of first fruits and when it actually is. And I was amazed that for the last 20 years, as I published exactly how it's calculated, it's never come up. No one's ever had a question about it. Not until this year, Nehemiah Gordon, I think we put a link on our website to Nehemiah's site, and it talked about him saying that the day of first fruits is this Sunday. And so now everyone's got a question about it. Not because they thought of it themselves, it's because somebody else put it out there, even though I've had it there for 20 years. Now, you all know that I respect Nehemiah Gordon a great deal. I brought him before you starting over 20 years ago in the Great Secret of Solomon's Temple. I introduced him to the world, and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of videos concerning the Great Secret of Solomon's Temple went out to the world. Nehemiah Gordon was the one that was put together. He was the one that was introduced to me by the gentleman who was the president of the Israeli New Moon Society. And he told me that there's one calculation I have yet to get right, and once I get that right, then the calendar will be the ancient biblical calendar. And this is when this rabbinic scholar, professor of Hebrew law at Hebrew University, said that Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, being Tishri 1, is rabbinic tradition. It's not true. The head of the year is the first day of the month of the Aviv. He said, and they gave me Nehemiah's number and said, you need to get a hold of him as soon as possible. The next morning, I was sitting in a coffee shop with Nehemiah Gordon and Bruce Brill, and that is what began our relationship at that time. I brought Nehemiah Gordon out on Raiders of the Lost Book, doing a 5-hour teaching on that, so that he could explain to you the difference between Rabbinic Judaism, which is a man-made religious system that was concocted out of using the Bible and mixing in a lot of man-made traditions, and the difference between the modern Judaism and the Karaites, who go just by what the scriptures say, or that is at least the principle. And everyone needed to understand this so they understand Yeshua's message, and that Yeshua is constantly and vehemently violating the rules of the Pharisees that Christians know nothing about. Most Christians, when they read the gospel record, they think that Yeshua is somehow breaking the Sabbath. No, he's breaking Pharisee rules that they invented around the Sabbath, and he shows that they have no authority whatsoever. Yeshua is our guide on this. He shows us how to live the Torah because he is the living Torah. And when he breaks man-made rules and he tells people to break them, then we need to listen to him instead of being little sniveling cowards who cower at the feet of religious leaders around the world because you want to be accepted. Well, to hell with being accepted by religious leaders. That's the last people I want to be accepted by. I want to be accepted by Yeshua. I want to do what he says to do. So I brought Nehemiah Gordon out and make nothing unclear about this. Nehemiah doesn't believe that Yeshua is the Messiah. I'm not bringing him out here so he can tell you why he doesn't believe he's a Messiah. Why he doesn't believe he's a Messiah, that's his problem. You know, I believe it's because he is blinded in part, just like all of us are blinded in part. But I did tell Nehemiah at one time, I said, if you believed in Yeshua right now, it would ruin everything. Why? Because here's a guy who doesn't believe he's a Messiah, yet knows what he's saying is true. He's telling Christians and Messianics what he's saying, and the Christians and Messianics aren't doing what he says. But yet Nehemiah is doing what he says because he thinks Yeshua is right. Now that's quite a combination, isn't it? That's why people hate him. That's why the Messianic world hates him. Because he's calling us to task on things that Yeshua says that we are ignoring. Now, Nehemiah cannot at all, he cannot admit that the feasts of the Lord are prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come. Why? Because the Torah doesn't say that. Who says it? One of the most brilliant Torah scholars of all time who sat at the feet of Gamaliel, had learned the entire Torah verbatim by the time he was 20 years old, who understood the Torah and was given the commission to take that understanding and open the eyes of the Gentiles, Shaul. He got it by revelation. As he said, I didn't receive this stuff from man. I received it from heaven. I received it from Yeshua. I got this by revelation. Behold, I show you a mystery. A mystery is something that has never been revealed before or cannot be revealed to the novice or the uninitiated. He showed us things that he got directly from heaven. And if you want to trash Shaul, you are never going to learn to walk by the Spirit because he's the one who articulates how to walk by the Spirit the way the prophets of old walked by the Spirit, but he nails it right down and shows us how he did it and what it means to walk by the Spirit. You'll miss it. You'll not get it. You want to throw Shaul under the bus? You have just thrown your ability to understand and walk by the Spirit and to understand the prophets. You've thrown them under the bus. He lays it out. Prophecy, word of knowledge, word of wisdom, discerning of spirits, faith, miracles, healing, all these things that were in play, all by the hands of the prophets, showing us how they're living in real in the book of the Acts. These are the things that are real, people. This is what makes it exciting. This ministry can't survive without revelation. It can't survive without revelation. It happens all the time. We are led by the Spirit all the time, and there are times we just stop dead and we don't move until we see the miracle that lets us know we are on the right track. That's why I did what I did when I did it, because I knew the hand of the Almighty over the last year, and I saw this is what I'm supposed to do. I could walk out, I could take an extra vitamin C and pop some cayenne like, people were suggesting, and I eat more cayenne than you've ever seen in your life. Okay, I already do that. I sweat at every meal, okay? I know how the Spirit was leading, and I knew this is it, I could check out early like everybody else, or I could give it one last shot, and I just say, hey, it's just a little bit of pain. It's just for a little while. I'm going to go the hard way, and we're going to make this thing happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that walking by the Spirit, that is a real thing. and that heaven is willing and able and does communicate to us now. The book of Acts did not end. There's no amen at the end. It's still being written today. And so now, as we go into this, to understand these things, I understand why Nehemiah has the position that he takes on this. And I respect it. I believe that he's wrong. But I could be wrong. I doubt it. I once thought I made a mistake, but it turned out I didn't. I was wrong. So I can make a mistake. Now let's go to Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23, here we are talking about Passover and the feast. Verse 4, I'll read. These are the feast of Yahovah, even holy convocations, kadosh mikra, holy rehearsals, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. The 14th day of the month at even is the Lord's Passover. Here, technically, and you need to understand this, Passover is used two different ways. One, the Lord's Passover is actually the sacrifice. Technically, it is the sacrifice which happens on the 14th. That is Passover. However, even in the scripture, it uses Passover as the Passover meal. In modern parlance, Passover is speaking of the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and we just speak of, Feast of Unleavened Bread many times as Passover, but the eating of the Passover meal we speak of as Passover. And we see this throughout the scriptures as well. So one, Passover is technically the slaying of that lamb in the late afternoon of the 14th. In originally it was between the evens that it was slain, okay? And then on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread to Yahovah. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. The first day you have a holy convocation, a kadosh mikra. You don't do any servile work therein. And that is when we eat the lamb. After sunset on the 14th, it begins on 15th, we eat the lamb with unleavened bread. So we're actually eating the Passover. The Passover is actually the sacrifice itself. So you need to know that those two terms are used just like that. And so then we go on, and it says that there's an offering that is to be made by fire for those 7 days. And then the seventh day is a holy convocation. That's actually the day that we cross the Red Sea, that seventh day. And it says that, in verse 10, speaking to the children of Israel and saying to them, when you come into the land which I give unto you, this is not to be done 40 years in the wilderness, it's not to be done at Mount Sinai, but when you come into the land, you shall reap the harvest thereof and bring a sheaf of the first fruits before the priest. And you'll wave it before Yahovah to be accepted on the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Now, modern rabbinic Judaism, after the destruction of the temple, changed this to be the day after the 15th. The high Sabbath of the 15th, they changed it, and that is when they made the day of first fruits. However, even on modern calendars produced by the Jews in the land of Israel, produced by Pharisees, they show that the Sadducees have a different reckoning. Sadducees is Zedakim. These are the priests who are in charge of the temple service. The Pharisees were never in charge of the temple service. They were in charge of the Sanhedrin, another ruling body of Israel. But the Zedakim priests were the ones that always did the day of first fruits after the sunset on the weekly Sabbath during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And then they counted 7 Sabbaths. The day after 7 Sabbaths is always a Sunday. That is Shavuot. And on the modern rabbinic calendars to this day, they will show Pharisees Shavuot and Zedakim Shavuot, because they still have to recognize that the priest kept it differently than they did. That's important, ladies and gentlemen, because Yeshua kept it according to what happened in the temple, not according to the Pharisees, which he said cross land and sea to make one proselyte, and when he's made, they turn him twofold more into the son of hell than themselves. You have to understand that Yeshua puts the plumb line down between the scriptures and rabbinic Judaism. Now, I have friends who are rabbis. I have many friends who are Pharisees. I love them. Every time I go to Jerusalem, I get together with them. Why? We have a great time together, but I do not play games. They know where I stand, I know where they stand, and we can argue about things, and we can discover things together. There's no animosity. We have a great time together. So don't think that I'm, against Pharisees. I love Pharisees. They're just wrong on so many things, and you have to understand they're wrong. And they read the wrongness back into the Bible because they don't know the difference between their Torah and the Talmud. They don't know the difference. It's like telling a Christian there weren't 3 wise men that came to the manger. They can't even handle that concept. And all you have to do is read the Gospel of Matthew and Luke, and you understand, it's not the same. This is Lew Wallace's version of Ben-Hur. That's where you get it from with Tinkerbell and all that. So, ladies and gentlemen, the world is full of Tinkerbell religions. And Rabbinic Judaism is that. Messianic Judaism is a concoction of the Tinkerbell stories of the Pharisees and the Baptists. They mix them all together, put a kippah on and dance and prance around, and God only knows what you end up with. Okay, so now, there's a difference. And it tells us now in verse 14, and you shall eat neither bread nor parched corn nor green ears until the selfsame day when you have brought an offering unto Jehovah. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Now, first of all, here we've got a lot of wrong words. Let's take it one at a time. You shall eat neither bread, which is lechem. Now, you have to understand, get the full context. If you're not able to eat bread, you're in big trouble. What's it talking about? Bread that's made from the new produce of the land. That's what it's talking about. Get the whole context here. Don't read one verse and jump to conclusions. Nor parched corn. That's kala. That is literally roasted corn. If you take barley, that's aviv, and you roast it, that's parching, get all the moisture out of it, and you're not to eat bread or parched corn, the grain that's been parched, nor green ears, that's Carmel. Worst translation in the world. Green ears is not right, it means fully ripe. You don't eat grain that's fully ripe, of the new harvest. Okay? Until the very day that you brought an offering unto your God. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, all your dwellings, and you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7th Sabbath shall be complete, even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you shall number 50 days. And you shall offer a new meal offering unto Yahweh, and that is the feast of Shavuot, or sevens. That's what Shavuot means in Hebrew. It means sevens. So you offer right after the end of the weekly Sabbath, you offer the first fruits of the barley, then you count 7 Sabbaths. The day after the 7th Sabbath will be the 50th day, and that's only true according to the Zadokim. Never or rarely true of the Pharisee reckoning. It can't be true except on rare years. And there it is, all falling in place. Now, I want to bring you to the reckoning of the new year and then the first fruit offering. But just before we do that, I want to take a break for a minute because I want to tell you, all of you who are gathered here and all of you who are joining us from around the world, that we are going to take a time now for you to be able to give. But this is not for the people that are in the audience. The people that are here are going to be with us all weekend, and we're going to give you a different opportunity to give, and that is during the Passover Seder tomorrow evening. That's when we're going to give you the opportunity to give, not tonight. But this time is for the people that are joining us by way of television and internet around the world. So no matter when you're watching this, this is your opportunity to stand with us. We are getting the gospel of the kingdom out to the world. We're preaching what Yeshua said to teach and to preach. We're making disciples of you out there. And we are asking, as you are freely receiving at great expense to everyone here and to everyone in this organization, with great expense, we are reaching out to you, and this is your opportunity, as you are freely receiving, now to freely give. Everyone that is here in the audience will have an opportunity to tomorrow night during the Passover Seder, after we've had a lot of teaching. That's when you're going to be able to give, and we have a representation of the altar of incense here, which is up before this screen, that really is available to you at any time during the weekend, but our giving is an act of worship, and we need to approach this with the proper attitude and understanding that this is really your offering in giving to Him. You know that it's going to be put in our hands for our stewardship to continue to reach out around the world, but we want you to understand that we put it in this container, this representation of the altar of incense, because we recognize when you give, you're not giving to us, you're giving to Him, and we need to handle it responsibly as if it is going directly to the Father's throne in heaven. This represents, as it did in the tabernacle, the prayers of the saints ascending up, and we know it is your prayer that He is going to be your provision and your blessing. And so those of you who give, you're going to be doing it by way of the phone and many other ways that you can give to this ministry. But we thank you for standing with us at this time, and for standing with us, and please give abundantly, give as you would want to receive, and give so that we can make this available to you for our Passover tomorrow night. And thank you for being with us and for joining us with us at this time. Now we're going to give just a couple minutes for everyone out there to give, and then we'll be back for the rest of the teaching. Very quickly, sit. You're staying right in front of that camera, and that's my camera. Everyone sit down. To understand so many things in the scripture, we have to get the context of the original language and the culture. The people that actually speak the language, how they've done these things for so many years. And what I'm going to show you are a few of the paintings that are done that you will find in the Carta Encyclopedia of the Temple Treasures and the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And we're going to start with, at the end of the 12th month, we take a look at the barley crop in the land of Israel. If the barley crop at the last days, in the last day of the month, the 12th month on the biblical calendar, if the barley is inspected in the land of Israel and the barley is not aviv yet, if it hadn't reached the stage of maturity where in any reasonable proximity to Jerusalem, more than a day's walk from Jerusalem, if the barley is not aviv, then there is a court that would meet on the southern steps of the Temple Mount called the Aviv Court. They would look at the barley that was brought up to them, and if the barley had not ripened to the stage of Aviv, to where 2 weeks later in Jerusalem, usually on the side of the Mount of Olives, it would then be Aviv, then it could be roasted and then presented in the temple. If there was no Aviv in the land of Israel, then we added another month onto the year. If the barley is aviv, now, and why we had to add another month is because we can't have the Feast of Unleavened Bread and present the first fruits of the barley if the barley's not ripe. That's why we guard and protect it so carefully, like we protect the Sabbath. And so now, if we add another month on, then at the end of that month, the barley will be aviv. And at that time, when the first sliver of the new moon appears and the barley is aviv, that is when the witnesses go up, we've sighted the new moon, and then when it is sanctified, when at least 2 witnesses have been heard and sanctified, that is when they light the signal fires, and this right here is one of the signal fires that is lit. And this is actually showing it from one location where we know exactly where it was done, on the shore of the Dead Sea. And you see the entire village over there, way deep into what is now called Jordan, at the time was called Babylon, that the entire city is now lit up over there. Because they would light the signal fire with the torch, that flame would go up, and from mountaintop to mountaintop throughout the land of Israel and beyond, they would then light the signal fires, and then the entire cities would light up, because now it is the beginning of the month. Especially the beginning of the year, extremely important, because now when that signal fire is lit, we know that 10 days later, the Passover lambs would be selected. 14 days from that point, the sacrifice would take place. When the sun sets at the end of the 14th, it's now the 15th, that's when the Feast of Unleavened Bread is. And during that week, there will be a weekly Sabbath in which after the Sabbath closes, then we harvest, we do the work of harvesting, winnowing, grinding the grain, and presenting it in the temple the next day, that begins our countdown to Shavuot. Now, what I'm going to show you now is, again, this is from a painting that appears in the card encyclopedia of the Jerusalem temple. And this is, if I can see this is showing the harvesting of the barley. Now, we're going to back up for a minute and I'm going to set this in context of how it was done in the temple. You are not going to see this written in the scripture. There are things that I cannot show you in the scripture, except for the fact that even as Peter said, David was a prophet who saw beforehand the coming of the Messiah. David was a prophet who saw the coming of the Messiah centuries, a millennia before he came. David was the one who set aside most of the building materials for the temple. David was the one with Asaph and Nathan who wrote the temple liturgy. David was the one who put in place the temple liturgy, the songs that would be sung, exactly what would take place during these feasts that he would never see take place. But during the days of Hezekiah and Josiah, it says that when they came back and did Passover, they did the Passover according to all the ordinances and commandments of King David. Where are those writings, ladies and gentlemen? We don't have them. Where do they remain? They remain in the memories and in what's passed down of the Kohanim from generation to generation. See, the traditions we have in modern day Judaism are not what we did in the temple. They help us remember what we did in the temple. During the time that Yeshua lived, there was no Seder plate. There was no egg on the Seder plate. There was no Easter egg. There was no broken shank bone of a lamb. There were no 4 cups of wine. These are things that were all added by the Pharisees after the destruction of the temple. They help us remember what we did in the temple. They're not what we did. Why do we have the broken shank bone of a lamb on the Seder plate? It reminds us that this is not Passover. We only do Passover in Jerusalem. That's the only place it's ever to be done, and this says it's not Passover. We are not doing Passover. This is not the Passover lamb. That's what that broken shank bone is all about, because you're not to break the shank. You're not to break a bone of the lamb, right? So showing that it's broken says this is not Passover. But you have to know this. Most Jews don't even know that's why it's there. They don't know why the Easter egg is on the plate. Or the Easter bunny. They go to the door and open up the door to see if the Easter bunny... No, that's Elijah, excuse me. I'm getting confused with the Baptist church. So, there were things that David put in place because he saw by revelation the coming of the Messiah. And when we understand what's going on in the temple, then we understand how Yeshua is fulfilling that. That's why tomorrow night you're going to see things you've never imagined before, because it took 20 years of living in Israel and doing the things that I did in Israel to understand things. And when I go through the Carta Encyclopedia and I see things, I know immediately Pharisees added this in. They're reading their traditions back into the temple service, and it's not there. You've got to know when people are wrong. You've got to know when the encyclopedia is feeding you a line of bull because it is projecting an idea back in time and it wasn't there. And that's why I do what I do, so I can help you in that. So you don't get deluded by Pharisaic or, Rabbinic Judaism or the Catholic Church. Need you to separate yourself from all religion and understand these things. Now, this is what happened. After the Passover lambs were sacrificed, and the last Passover lamb was sacrificed, which is one selected by the high priest, they then took it into the priest's quarters in the temple in Mount Moriah. The high priest and his entourage would go over the Kidron Valley Bridge. It's late now, the afternoon of the 14th. They would shock together 10 standing shocks of barley, 1 omer each, and then they would come back across the bridge. It's before sunset. It's still the day of preparation. The sun now sets. It is the 15th. It is the high Sabbath, and they eat the lamb with unleavened bread made from the barley of the previous year in bitter herbs, and that's what they do. They eat the lamb. Now, we go 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, whenever it is for the weekly Sabbath. In Yeshua's time, the crucifixion and the lambs being put in the oven, that happened on a Wednesday. That was the 14th in the afternoon. Now we go all the way to the weekly Sabbath, and the sun sets at the end of the weekly Sabbath. The high priest has been in seclusion in Mount Moriah the entire time. No one outside of the priesthood has been near him. He's been untouched by human hands. The high priest is in the heart of the earth of Mount Moriah. Then, after sunset, the high priest and his entourage, and now thousands of people, crowd the Kidron Valley Bridge. He walks over the Kidron Valley Bridge, and this is the scene on the side of the Mount of Olives as we focus in on it right now. The high priest shouts out, "Has the sun set?" And the priest in unison crowd, "Yes, the sun is set." "Will you harvest the barley?" "Yes, we will harvest the barley." "With your sickle?" "Yes, with this sickle." "In this basket?" "Yes, in this basket." "Harvest the bikurim, the first fruits of the barley." Now the sun is set. Now it is no longer the Sabbath day. They can now work, and they take those 10 standing shocks of barley, and they harvest them, and they put them in their basket. Now, after that, they take them across the Kidron Valley Bridge in their baskets over to the Temple Mount. And now, the next scene from the Temple Mount. Now we see over on the right hand, over on your right hand side, the priest bringing in the barley from the Kidron Valley in the baskets. Now you see the one next to him, right underneath the cloud, which is really the smoke from the altar. The priest is winnowing out the grain from the chaff. And then we see right in front of him where they are sifting out and further winnowing it out. And then all the way over to the left, you see the priest that is then parching the barley, removing all of the moisture from that. After it is now parched, then you see right in the middle and the back, now the priest is grinding the barley. It is through the night going to be then baked into loaves and then presented as the first fruits the following morning. That's why it has to be done after the Sabbath day, not on the Sabbath day. This is exactly how it was done in the temple. Can I show it to you from Exodus or Leviticus? No. But we know from history this is exactly how it was done, and even the Pharisees admitted that this is how it was done in the temple. Now, we're going to go to Joshua 5:10 through 12. And Nehemiah does a beautiful job of detailing this because it's completely wrong in the English. Joshua chapter 5, verse 10, the children of Israel camped in Gilgal and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even in the plains of Jericho. This is just before attacking Jericho. We have now circumcised an entire generation and made a hill of foreskins, which must have been very pleasant, and that's why it's called Gilgal. And on the 14th day of the month, we sacrificed the Passover. We kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even, which means that's when we sacrificed the Passover. And they did eat of the old corn. No, it's not old corn. It would be nice if it was old corn, because that would take care of all of our problems if we just said old corn, but it doesn't. It says the produce, the yield of the land. We're talking about the new produce, not last year's. They did eat of the produce of the land on the morrow after the Passover. Unleavened cakes and parched corn. The word corn is unnecessary because it's barley corn, but it's parched. Unleavened cake and parched in the self-same day. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the produce, not old corn, but this is the new produce. Neither had the children of Israel manna anymore, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. And now we come to go back there. And they did eat of the, verse 11, of the produce of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened cakes and parched corn. Now we have something that could be easily understood as they did eat of the new produce of the land on the day after they ate the Passover. They ate of the Passover. They ate unleavened cakes. It's a figure of speech called ellipsis in the Bible, where you don't need to say it every time. They did eat the Passover, and they did eat of the new corn of the land the day after they ate of the Passover. See, and this works very perfectly if Passover, the 14th, is on a Friday. On a Friday, that is when the Passover lamb would be, that year, would be sacrificed at even. And when the sun sets, after that, now they eat of the, they are going to eat the Passover, but they're going to eat it with the old corn the previous year, because now it's the Sabbath day. And at the end of the Sabbath day, then they harvest of the new corn of the land and present it the next day. And so the very day, first of all, they've got to be able to work to do this. And so if we go back and look at this, let's say that it's like this year. The 14th is tomorrow. It's the Sabbath day, correct? All right, so let's go back to the temple period. It's the 14th day of the month, and in the late afternoon, we're going to sacrifice the Passover lambs, and at sunset, it's going to begin the 15th, and we'll eat the Passover, as we will tomorrow night, with unleavened bread. Now, when did the harvest of the barley take place? Where did all this rehearsal happen? It's impossible to do it now, because now what we have on the 14th day of the month, on the 14th day, the Passover lamb is sacrificed tomorrow afternoon. Then the priest will go over and just shock together 10 standing shocks of barley. And then when the sun set, it's the high Sabbath. See, now are we going to harvest, winnow, parch, grind, bake into loaves all night long? We're supposed to be eating the Passover lamb. It's going to happen all night long. We're not going to be working all night long for something that can transpire at the end of that week after the weekly Sabbath. Now, some would say, well, aren't we supposed to, during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, aren't we, we're not supposed to eat leaven with it? Well, let's look at it. Let's say that it happens the next week, okay? At the end of this period of time, the seventh day is also going to be Sunday, correct? Excuse me, it's going to be Shabbat. And so at the end of Shabbat, we now cut the barley and we process it through the night and present it the next morning. Where did leaven all of a sudden come into the picture? We haven't had leaven in the land for 7 days. Leaven doesn't just magically appear at sunset at the end of the Sabbath. You've got to have time to let leaven be leaven. It takes a couple of days. So at the end of this period of time, after the weekly Sabbath, everything can fit. They can bind together the standing shocks of barley because they're still standing. They're not going anywhere. They're still growing. They're fine. And then after the weekly Sabbath, during the feast, when the sun sets, now we can work and we can do this. So this can work very perfectly, and there is nothing in that scenario that violates Jeremiah. We just see that on the 14th day of the month, that's when they sacrificed the Passover lamb that year. It was on a Friday, and at sunset begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It's the high, and it is also at that point, when the sun sets, it's the 15th day of the month, and now they are going to eat the lamb with unleavened bread. And so now we come to where we are right now. And so now I'm going to step, we got how much time, Ted? Oh, thank you, about 2 minutes. That's beautiful. Because there's a couple other things that I wanted to get into tonight, because we're talking about seed and barley. And if we happen to go over tonight, we will go over by a few minutes. And so what we're going to do is, let you guys hold in here, because I think what we're going to do is be signing off for everyone out there. Is that not correct, Ted? Okay, we're going to be signing off. But what we are going to do is, I would love for the Day of First Fruits to be on Sunday. It just works. Offerings, everything else, it just works wonderfully. But sorry, you're going to be gone when the official day is here. But when it comes down to it, ladies and gentlemen, there is no practical application of the first fruits offering and how everything was done after the destruction of the temple. That is why the Pharisees changed the reckoning of the month of the Aviv to 7 times every 19 years. It's a mathematical logarithm. Why? There's no temple. There's no presenting the barley in the temple. It's just that there's just no solid application to this, because it doesn't have anything to do with the barley after the temple is destroyed. And so that's why the Pharisees changed all these things for their own convenience at that point. And so the modern Jewish calendar is not based on barley. When we have Passover, it's not based on barley. The Feast of Unleavened Bread, nothing is based on the first fruits of the barley anymore. And that is why, if Nehemiah is wrong, what difference does it make? If I'm wrong, what difference does it make? But it does change the day that Shavuot takes place. But there's no temple to go up to in Jerusalem for Shavuot either at this particular point in time. Which means when the Messiah comes, we're going to say, you know, we did our best. Tell us what the right way is, because you're the king, we're all idiots, and we admit it. We're just doing our best. So Nehemiah can have his view on this. I'll have my view on this at this point. And if we're both wrong, you know, it's not going to change the world, okay? It's that we are all trying to do our best, but my basis is the feast of the Lord are all prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come. That which was rehearsed in the temple for 1,000 years, put there by King David, which his record we don't have, but we know how they did it. I believe that Yeshua fulfilled it exactly the way it was rehearsed in the temple, because it was the rehearsal of Yeshua and what he would do in fulfilling these things. So that is where I stand. The feast of the Lord are these prophetic shadow pictures, and someone who does not believe that Yeshua is the Messiah can never admit that, and would never admit that, and would have no reason to go that way. So that's why it is equally understandable why Nehemiah would have his position and I would have my position, is it not? Amen? I'd like to close in prayer and thank all of you for being with us. Thank you for being with us tomorrow for Passover. Prepare for Passover, not as a spectator, but as one participating in that. Yivarechecha Yehovah v'yishmerecha. Yair Yehovah panav elecha v'yichanecha. Yisa Yehovah panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, Sar Shalom. Amen. Yehovah bless you and keep you. Yehovah make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of Yeshua, the Prince of Peace. Amen and amen. Amen. Thanks for hanging